Hey Chaotic Crew, Brian here. I've got a really cool new deck tag with one of the PlayStation Secret Lair cards, Nathan Drake Treasure Hunter. So gonna dive right in, but before we do, I wanted to say that this episode is brought to you by Manapool. It's a fast-growing marketplace for Magic the Gathering that makes buying and selling cards easy. Their optimizer helps you get the best value in buying cards, and the team is focused on making it a great experience for buyers and sellers alike. I've used it before and I've loved it, so it's really cool that they're helping out the channel. So love that. So diving back into Nathan Drake, he is Grixis for a 3/2 human rogue. First strike. You may spend mana as though it were a mana of any color to cast spells you don't own, or activate abilities of permanents you control but don't own. Whenever Nathan Drake attacks, exile the top card of each player's library. You may cast a spell from among those cards. So you can't cast those spells for free. You have to pay mana, but mana of any type can be spent for that. So Nathan Drake is essentially just stealing your opponent's stuff. A lot of exile your opponent's stuff says you can cast it anytime. That's not the case. Nathan Drake, you have to cast it when it attacks, if you want to cast something. So that's something to keep in mind there. If you have something that makes you mana while you're attacking, like some of the firebending cards from the new Avatar set, that can actually work out pretty well here. And in fact, now that I'm thinking about it, I may want to add some in post. That could be a really cool synergy that I didn't even think about, right? So that's pretty cool there. But this card is essentially wanting to attack. It has first strike, what's helpful, but you can give it some other keywords to help it get in. I think it's a really unique and fun deck, so I wanted to get right into it. First off, you can see as a Planeswalker, we have Tasha, the Witch Queen. Whenever you cast a spell you don't own, create a 3/3 black demon creature token. So this is just generating value off of what your commander's doing. A +1 Tasha to draw a card. For each opponent, exile up to one target instant or sorcery from that player's graveyard. Put a page counter on it. Then, of course, -3. You may cast a spell from among cards in exile with page counters on them without paying its mana cost. So, essentially just giving you more ways to cast stuff from exile. So this is really great in giving you just a bunch of 3/3s for casting stuff, which is what you're normally doing. We have 20 creatures in the deck. Most of them, if not all of them, care about that kind of thing. Starting off with Archetype of Imagination, this is a really cool card that just helps our commander get in, right? It's going to give all our creatures flying and all our opponent's creatures lose flying, so that's nice to have. Black Cat Cunning Thief is new from the Spider-Man set, and when Black Cat enters, you look at the top 9 cards of target opponent's library, exile 2 of them face down, put the rest in the bottom of the library in a random order. You may play the exiled cards for as long as they remain exiled. Mana of any type can be spent to cast the spells this way, so very cool there. Brainstealer Dragon, 7 mana for a 6/6. Beginning of your end step, exile the top card of each opponent's library. You may play those cards for as long as they remain exiled. If you cast a spell this way, you may spend mana as though it were a mana of any color to cast it. Whenever a non-land permanent an opponent controls enters the battlefield under your control, they lose life equal to its mana value. So this is a way to deal more damage to your opponent's stuff. We're going to be casting a bunch of spells from our opponent anyways, and Brainstealer Dragon just is really great to, do more, another payoff for that. Don Andres, another great payoff, because each creature you control but don't own gets +2/+2, has menace and death touch, and is a pirate. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell you don't own, you make 2 tapped treasures. So it kind of helps you ramp up and continue to cast more stuff on future turns. So I really love that. Atali Primal Storm is great because, of course, it's casting your opponent's stuff from exile. So that's all, and your own too, but importantly, your opponent's. Gonti Night Minister is fun. Whenever a player casts a spell they don't own, that player creates a treasure token. So it counts for anyone, but it's going to really benefit you the most. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller looks at the top card of that opponent's library and exiles it face down. They may play that card for as long as it remains exiled. Mana of any type can be spent to cast a spell this way. So that's really great there. Next we have Hostage Taker. It's going to exile another target creature artifact until Hostage Taker leaves the battlefield, and then you can cast it while it's Hostage Taker still in the field, so that's really great. Kafka Dancing Mad is fantastic. Beginning of your end step, you're going to exile a card at random from each opponent's graveyard. You can cast any number of spells from among cards exiled this way without paying their mana cost. Each player who owns a spell you cast this way loses life to its mana value. So kind of similar to Brainstealer Dragon. Brainstealer Dragon applies to all spells you cast but don't own. Kafka is going to only do the ones that he's exiling, but still very good card here with the deck. Another way to cast stuff from exile, so always great there. Laughing Jasper Flint. Creatures you control but don't own are mercenaries in addition to their other types. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top X cards of target opponent's library, where X is the number of outlaws you control. Remember, outlaws are rogues, mercenaries, there are a couple others. Villains and pirates. Until the end of the turn, you may cast spells from among those cards and mana of any type, yada yada. So that's good there. Nightscape Familiar is great here. It's going to make blue and red spells we cast cost one less to cast. I see blue and red almost always in my, pods that I play in. So going to not only make a lot of our stuff cheaper, but also a lot of the things we exile cheaper as well. So that's nice. Professional Facebreaker, just going to give us more treasures when Nathan Drake gets in, if he gets in, right, and not chump blocked. And then sacrificing treasures to impulse draw is always great. Prosper is always fantastic, giving us treasures when we cast stuff from ourselves or our opponent, so fantastic there. Added Ragavan because it may be casting something from exile and giving us treasures. Really great turn 1 play. Later in the game, maybe good after a board wipe, but other than that, yeah, not bad. Sages of the Beyond is interesting. 7 mana for a 5/5. You could also foretell it, pay 2 mana to exile it face down and then cast it later for 5 mana. Spells you cast from anywhere other than your hand cost 2 less to cast, so this is great for casting your and your opponent's spells from exile. Psalms of Malacrum, just another ramp piece, and it can draw you a card. Thief of Sanity is great because you get to exile a card from your opponent's library, and then you can cast that card for as long as it remains exiled, yada yada. Thieving Varmint, 2 mana for a 2/1 with Death Touch and Lifelink. Tap, pay 1 life, add 2 mana of any one color, spend that mana only to cast spells you don't own. So, very cool way to get more out of your commander. Treasure Nabber, also great. Going to be stealing our opponent's artifacts that we can tap for mana. So to give us a lot more mana to cast, more spells from exiles. This is kind of a mana-hungry deck, right? We're going to be wanting to cast our spells plus our opponents. So that's something to keep in mind there. Vaughn, Street Thief, new card from Final Fantasy. Whenever one or more scouts, pirates, and or rogues you control do combat damage to a player, exile the top card of that player's library. You may cast it. If you don't, create a treasure token. Whenever you cast a spell you don't own, put a +1/+1 counter on each scout, pirate, and rogue you control. So Vaughn is probably, one of the best cards in this deck. It's giving us treasures when we get stuff that we can't really play from our opponents. But also, something I should have mentioned about when I talked about Laughing Jasper is that our commander is a rogue, right? So it's going to start buffing our rogue. Our commander has first strike already, so giving it +1/+1 counters is going to make it even harder to block. So that's really great there. And then I included Valky, God of Lies, just for the backside, which is Tybalt, of course. Tybalt's all about casting your opponent's stuff from exile, so great planeswalker to have in the deck. Really like it. As far as sorceries, we've got a good amount. We have Blasphemous Edict and Toxic Deluge as kind of board wipes, also including Chain Reaction because it was in the Nathan Drake Secret Lair as well. So wanted to add in as many of those cards as I could. Made sense to me. Breach the Multiverse is really great. We have some strong creatures. Our opponents are going to have strong creatures. So Breach the Multiverse, mill our opponents out for 10. The way we're exiling cards from our commander deck, it's unlikely that we're going to mill anyone out, but it's possible, so this can kind of help with that too, I guess. Mostly you're using it just to get a bunch of big creatures on the battlefield. We have Enter the Enigma to make Nathan Drake unblockable if it needs to be, and it replaces itself, so that's pretty great. Fevered Suspicion, fantastic. We're getting things from all of our opponents, and this has Rebound, so it gets cast from exile again, and then we get it all again. So there's that. Night's Whispers, just, incremental card draw, stock up's kind of the same thing there. Vandal Blast to get rid of all of our opponent's artifacts. always good to have. Then we have Instants, Offer You Can't Refuse, Arcane Denial, Negate as like some counter spells. I always like to have at least 3 counters in any blue deck I own. Bedevil, Rakdos Charm, Chaos Warp, Deadly Rollick, Withering Torment as all like removal. Untimely Malfunction can remove an artifact as well, but more likely protecting our commander or making it so that creatures can't block. So very good there for us. Rakdos Charm also pretty flexible in what it does, so that's nice too. Siphon Insight's cool. We get to exile cards from our opponent's library. You may look at them, play yada yada. It's just another way to get that kind of effect without our commander, right? And we have 16 artifacts, lots of ramp pieces here, just because, like I said, this is a mana-hungry deck. We want to make sure we can cast whatever we're exiling when we want to cast it, so that's really good there. Arcane Signet, Dimir Signet, Felwar Stone, Izzet Signet, Rakdos Signet, you know, the talismans as well. Talisman of Creativity, Talisman of Indulgence, Talisman of Dominance. Interdimensional Web Watch is when it enters, exile the top 2 cards of your library until the end of the next turn. Your next turn, you may play those cards. Then you can add 2 mana of any combination of colors, but only to cast spells from exile. But this is really great in this deck because we're casting a lot from exile. Relic of Sauron also gives you 2 mana of different combinations, and it's just really great there. We have Midnight Clock, also from the Nathan Drake Secret Lair, so I thought I'd add that in. Helps draw us more cards, refills our hand, but also can be a mana, rock as well. We have Wayfarer's Bauble, which helps early game get us land. Late game, just 3 mana for a land, not terrible in Grixis colors. These tools kind of like ramps us a little bit. We get a treasure token. It's also going to make our commander unblockable as long as its power stays 3, which is really, really great for us. And then as far as, other equipment, we've got Basilisk Collar here, which is going to give our commander Death Touch and Lifelink. So First Strike, Death Touch, always a deadly combo. Lifelink for some incremental life gain in here. Winged Boots is really cool. Give our commander flying and ward 4, which is always helpful, and it helps it get in even more. Wand of Wonders is the last artifact here, pretty much going to exiles instant sorceries from the top of their library, and then we can cast maybe 1 or 2. Unlikely we're going to cast 3, but it's possible. So yeah, that's good there. As far as enchantments, Aqueous Form is good. It helps get our commander in, like we talked about before. Charred Foyer and Warped Space is great in any exiled deck. Charred Foyer is, beginning of your upkeep, exile top card of your library, you may play it this turn. So incidental card draw is great. The other side of the room, Warped Space, once each turn you may pay 0 rather than pay the mana cost for a spell you cast from exile. So really strong in this deck. Cunning Rhetoric. Whenever an opponent attacks you or one or more planeswalkers you control, exile the top card of that player's library. You may play that card, yada yada. That's really good there. Curse of Opulence helps get you ramping. We're attacking with this deck, so ramping every time we're attacking is great, and anytime incentivizing your opponents to attack a player and not you is always great, and then that ramps you as well is just really strong, and I think underused in these days. Fortune Teller's Talent doesn't do, a ton for us. Getting more lands is great, but really we want that last level, which does take 8 mana to get to over probably the course of 3 turns at some point. But if you just, it's unlikely this deck's going to have mana it doesn't want to spend. But if you do have extra mana, definitely try and get this out, just because it's going to make everything else so much worth it. Right, really paying for the self back is being able to get a land off of the second ability and maybe casting 2 or 3 spells from exile where it's significantly reduced. So it also reduces your command tax, right? That's something to keep in mind too. Mind's Dilation is great. Whenever opponent casts his or her first spell each turn, you exile cards until you get an online card. You may cast it without paying its mana cost, so really great there. Passionate Archaeologist is a payoff, again, for casting much stuff from exile, also in the Nathan Drake lair, so really great there. Triple Triad, new from Final Fantasy. You can essentially cast 1 spell for free each turn without paying its mana cost, and you're also exiling top card of opponent's library, so works with the deck pretty well. Nothing crazy about lands. You know, we have the black 8 to help get in, but other than that, it's pretty normal 3-color land base, I think. Just gonna play test real quick. No lands. That's not gonna do well. Let's go ahead and restart that one. Okay, much better. We don't have any red, but that may change. Let's keep it. We can play a couple things here. So first off, I'm going to zoom back out. All right, turn 1. Rakdos Charm. Can't play it. Can play this Morphic Pool though, so we'll go next turn. Interdimensional Web Watch helps maybe get to a red mana source. So play the Talisman of Dominance. Turn 2, and then pass turn 3. Yep, turn 3 as expected. We are casting this Interdimensional Web Watch, and when it enters, we exile type 2 cards, which is Prosper, not great, and Withering Torment, which also isn't great. Alright, next turn. We do get Talisman of Indulgence, which is good. That's good. So we could pay 2 for the Talisman of Indulgence. That is our red mana source. Getting Prosper out is pretty great, so let's do that. We don't even need to use our red source for that, actually. Interdimensional Web Watch can tap for red, so that's great. So 2 red and black. There we go. That way we have mana open for Rakdos Charm if needed. So not amazing, but we're getting there. In step, we exile a land for Prosper, so that's good. So next turn we can start cooking by the book. What's good is this deck doesn't necessarily need our commander out to do anything, because he's not a payoff at all. He just helps exile cards. But you can see we're already doing that ourselves. Prosper's a great back commander for this deck anyways. Can cast a lot of different spells, so not the worst. Alright, we'll keep this one. 4 lands and a ramp piece, love that. So draw for turn. Black Cat, play this Crumbling Necropolis tapped, and we'll turn 2. Ooh. Okay. Good to know. That's not bad, but I want to get out the ramp piece, so we'll get the ramp piece out first. Next turn, turn 3. Now we can get our commander out, and we can also play the Oscorp Industries land, so good there. And then next turn, we have 5 mana. So the thing here is we don't really know what our opponents are going to have. Right? They could have anything from removal to ramp to just lands. We could totally strike out. But this is how this deck gets churning. So we have Thieving Varmint. We'd like to play Thieving Varmint. Right? If we get nothing from our opponents, we can still cast Black Cat. That's still great. Love that. Or Thieving Varmint to help us cast more stuff on future turns. You can literally go either way. I think they're both good. If you find a spell that's 3 mana or less, cast that, and also cast Thieving Varmint, right? So really strong there. I think this is a good hand. Breach the Multiverse is good in a couple turns. Black Cat gets us a couple cards as well. So yeah, just really fun deck overall, I think. But it's going to rely a lot on what your opponents are playing, and I like that aspect because it's kind of like you're solving a puzzle, but you're not finding pieces of the puzzle until midway through the game, right? Because you're getting cards from your opponents. You don't know what pieces you're going to have to use to solve it. So I love that a lot. And I think this is going to be a really popular commander out of the Secret Lair set. So yeah, I definitely let me know if you're building the deck, what you would put in, what you would take out. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the content. And we've got some, pre-cons are coming up. Not quite this year, but I think Avatar is coming up. And then when Lauren comes, we'll do some more pre-con giveaways. And make sure to become a channel member so that when we do that, you get an extra, a shot at winning one of those. So other than that, hope you all have a great week, and I'll be back next time. Bye.